The Shadow Broker, Secrets Beneath Chicago. The Shadow Broker, a Chicago abyss. Chicago's subway system is a labyrinth of steel and concrete, humming with life, except for the forgotten tunnels, the ones sealed off decades ago after budget cuts and collapses. Down there in the stagnant dark, the air smells of rust and rot, and the silence is broken only by dripping water or the occasional scurry of rats. That's where the Shadow Broker lives, or so the urban legends say, a hunched, faceless thing that barters nightmares for pieces of your shadow. Most called it a ghost story for the homeless who slept in the stations. Tommy Vega wasn't so sure. Tommy was 34, a wiry man with a patchy beard and tired eyes, who'd been living on the streets since the factory shut down in 2021. He knew the city's underbelly better than most, scavenging in alleys and crashing in the warmth of CTA vents. On November 3, 2023, a bitter cold snap drove him deeper than usual, past the rusted grates and into a disused tunnel beneath the loop. He'd heard the rumors, whispers from other drifters about a dealer in the dark, but hunger and frostbite outweighed his fear. With a flickering flashlight and a tattered sleeping bag, he descended. The tunnel was a tomb, walls slick with mold, rails swallowed by dust, and a stillness that pressed against his ears. Tommy set up near a collapsed platform, muttering to himself to fill the void. Just one night, warmer than the street. His voice echoed faintly, then stopped, swallowed by something thicker than silence. He swept his flashlight around, catching glints of broken tile, until it landed on a shape in the shadows, a hunched figure, still as stone. It was the Shadow Broker. Its body was squat and gnarled, cloaked in a ragged shroud that seemed to drink the light. Where a face should have been was nothing, just a smooth, blank expanse above a wide, toothy maw that stretched ear to ear, bristling with jagged fangs. It didn't move, didn't breathe, but Tommy felt its presence crawl up his spine. Who are you?" he stammered, stepping back. The maw twitched, and a voice rasped out, not from its mouth, but from the air itself. "A broker of shadows, of fears, what do you offer?" Tommy's flashlight trembled. "I ain't got nothing," he said, voice cracking. The broker tilted its head and the tunnel grew colder, the walls pulsing faintly. "You have a shadow. I trade glimpses of what you dread most." Tommy laughed nervously. "What, like a nightmare? I've lived plenty." The broker's maw widened, a grotesque grin. "Not like this. One piece, for one vision. Against his better judgment, curiosity, or desperation won. Fine. Show me." The air shimmered, and Tommy's shadow stretched unnaturally across the floor, a thin sliver peeling away like smoke. The broker's blank face split open, not with teeth but with darkness, and Tommy saw his old factory burning, coworkers screaming as flames licked their skin, his hands helpless to save them, a terror he'd buried since the layoffs. He gasped, collapsing to his knees, the vision fading as the broker's voice purred. "Delicious. More?" Tommy should have run. Instead, he traded again, a second piece for a glimpse of his childhood dog torn apart by a car he couldn't stop. Then a third, his sister, drowning in a river he'd failed to reach. Each time, his shadow shrank, and the broker grew larger, its shroud billowing, its maw dripping with something black and wet. By the fourth trade, Tommy was sobbing, begging to see his mother's death reversed. The broker obliged, showing her alive, then rotting before his eyes. "Enough," it hissed. Tommy nodded, trembling, but noticed his shadow was barely a puddle beneath him. He fled, staggering through the tunnel, the broker's laughter echoing. "Come back, more to trade." That night he slept in a shelter, but the nightmares came anyway, vivid, relentless, every fear he'd seen looping in his skull. Each morning his shadow grew fainter, and by the third day, it was gone. On November 6th, a friend found him in an alley, curled up, lifeless. No marks, no cause, just a vacant stare and no shadow cast in the dawn light. Word spread among Chicago's underground. The tunnel's grate was welded shut, but drifters still hear it, rasping offers seeping through the cracks, promising visions for a price. Some say the broker's shroud is stitched from stolen shadows, growing with every deal. Others swear they've seen it in the subway's flickering lights, waiting for the next desperate soul. Tommy's sleeping bag still lies down there, they say, untouched, a marker for where the Shadow Broker trades fear for what makes you human.